all the Schoolhouse Rock songs.
Those are great.
I don't, for copyright reasons, I won't actually be including it, but I will be mentioning it.
Yeah, that was a classic. Now, I know you also had, I think recently on the show, someone was talking about Bible codes where they went 7 times 7 every 49 letters, and you could pull out stuff. Was that something?
That was on the TV show, not on the Atheist Debate stuff.
Yeah, on the TV show. What are they, hidden Bible codes?
Yep. We had a caller call in who was absolutely convinced of this, and it was surprising because this is so old news. I mean, this is, 1980s, 1990s, and then it got debunked, and people applied the same mechanisms and found codes in Moby Dick and secular stuff, and we have a pretty good understanding of why you're able to find these things, in part because you're looking for them, and it turns out if you really look for something, you can manipulate it so that you'll find it. But that was one of the points I made during the show, if I recall correctly, was, his big thing was no human could possibly do this. And I'm like, well, they can and they have. You need to go do a little bit more research into this. But even if humans weren't able to duplicate this, the codes that you think you found on their own can't be proof that a God exists. We have, this is the thing, and this is why I did this video early. I did a video talking about our limits with respect to investigating, confirming the existence of the supernatural and the supernatural's ability to influence the natural world. There's a reason why science is based on methodological naturalism. It doesn't say the supernatural doesn't exist. It says we have no way to test for this, so we can't tell you anything about it, including whether it exists or whether it can impact the real world. And given that limitation, somebody first has to demonstrate some mechanism by which they have access to the supernatural to consistently confirm and identify it. And it may be that we're forever blocked from that. You could look at it as perhaps the supernatural being some alternate universe, alternate reality. And even if it exists, until somebody finds the wormhole that connects the two that allows us to explore it, we can't know it exists. We have that limitation. And Bible codes, my gosh, the exact same methods that they used to find, Hebrews or King of Kings or whatever else they wanted to find in there, you can find Satan is God, depending on how you want to reorganize things.
Now, I know that one of your talks, and I don't know if this is originally your idea, so correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been giving you credit for it, because I liked it so much I stole it. But you were talking about, at one point, you had claimed to somebody that you could write a morally superior book to the Bible, and that you could just simply copy it word for word, but take out the parts that said slavery is good, and by definition, the book would be morally superior. Is that something you came up with?
So far as I know, I was doing a debate at a Church of Christ in San Antonio.
Yeah, that was the whole story where you messed up their entire church.
Yeah, and I know it wasn't in my notes. I can't say for sure that I hadn't heard something similar at some point, but it felt like one of those things that I just made up on the spot. If anybody finds that somebody else has, by all means, credit them. I'm not overly concerned with where an idea came from or who's saying it as much as I am its value. And to me, then in that moment, watching them desperately trying to defend their holy book, it just seemed like the obvious thing to say. So I guess if somebody wants to give credit, I'll take it till we find out otherwise.
Well, I'll consider it done. I'll give you the credit. The other thing I have to double check with you, I've had in my mind that you and I were talking about investments several years back, and I can't remember if it was you or Beth, but I thought it was one of the two of you, said something along the lines of, so Phil, what you're basically doing is teaching people how to money. And I stole that. And does that ring a bell? Is that something you guys said?
If it was one of the two of us, it would have been Beth.
Well, then I'll give her credit for that. But it was one of those things. I use that in my talks all the time now. And it struck me so much because when my kids went on these youth exchanges, my daughter went to Brazil and my son went to Poland, and they came back, and they kept saying things like, "It's so hard to English," and so it's this common vernacular with the young today that to make these words mean different things and say it so it's how to money. So maybe she said that, but I teach people how to money, and people seem to really like that phrase. So thank her for me.
I will do that.
And get her a cat.
She's got 4 of them. 4 cats, 2 snakes, and a husband. That's all she needs.
That's all she needs. So what else is going on in your life? You got any conventions you going to? You going to the Reason Rally at least?
I'm not going to the Reason Rally.
Oh, breaking my heart.
Hey, despite what some people think, I'm not made of money. And
you're going to miss the 4 members of the Wu-Tang Clan.
I saw that announcement today. That's interesting. I was in Florida last weekend. I'm working for the next 2 weeks. Then I go to Regina, Saskatchewan.
Regina, yeah.
And then I go May 13th. I'm at CFI headquarters in Amherst, New York. And then, why don't I pull up my dang calendar?
There you go. Are you going to American Humanists in Chicago?
I am not.
All
Typically,
right.
what ends up happening is I don't get to go to too many. Only one time have I gone to a convention where I wasn't actually speaking, and it turned out that on the drive to that convention, they called and asked me to speak.
Was that Skepticon?
That was Skepticon.
Yeah.
Because I end up doing so many things, and because I'm now self-employed as a godless heathen, I'm not flowing in the waters of massive multi-million-dollar contracts.
Right.
I am. I take the weekends that I'm not working, and I use them for all the things that I want to get done. And as much as I'd like to go to some of the conventions, it's just not financially practical for me to, pack up, get a hotel, take care of the flights, and if I do that, I would want to take Beth with me. And so now, it depends on whether or not she could get off work, because I don't want to pack up and go to the Reason Rally on my own. So I'm going to be staying home. What else is coming up? Let's see. So yeah, the Friday the 13th of May, I'll be at CFI in Amherst. Unfortunately, I won't be at the Reason Rally at the beginning of June. I'm actually executive producer or whatever producer for a magic show here in Austin, July 9th, Magic the Capital. So I'm using my free time between now and July 9th to prepare all the behind-the-scenes stuff for that magic show. I'm not one of the performers. I'm just the producer. And then in August, I'm at Gateway to Reason 2, Electric Boogaloo. And I'll be at Apostacon September 17th. I'll be doing magic at that one. And Skeptics of Oz in October. Evidently, I'm not planning on coming back on your show soon, so I'm going to give my whole year's worth of...
That's all good.
There was there's a debate. Let me see if Google knows the date for my debate, because I'm not remembering it. But it was the Bible and Beer Consortium folks in Dallas, where Blake and I had done our first debate, invited me back up, and we're going to do our third debate. This time it's on the resurrection. And I'm very excited because I'm tired. Well, I'm not. I won't say I'm tired. It gets frustrating to do the same debate over and over. Oh my gosh, I scheduled 2 things at the same time. I'm glad I looked that up.
Well, now, do the audience members want the same debate?
Sorry, what's that?
Do the audience members want the same debate?
Well, we've been having the same debates on the same topics for just about as long as we've been able to debate these things. My frustration is the debating fundamentalist Christians in particular who only want to defend a vague deistic notion. So they'll show up, and we know that they believe that Jesus is Lord and walked on water and loaves and fishes and is the key to salvation. And their entire argument is, the Kalam cosmological argument, which doesn't get you to a God at all, and it definitely doesn't get you to Jesus, or the teleological argument. They want to use these things to give some scholarly appearing foundation upon which there must be something godlike, and then weasel their particular God in. And they can't actually achieve the first goal. I mean, otherwise, it'd be on the front page of every newspaper. Yep, we've proved there should be a God or is a God. Now we can start arguing about which one it is.
Right.
They never get past the first step. So that's actually in August. And I didn't double book. I was smart. So August 13th, 12th or 14th, actually, I'll be at Gateway to Reason 2 in St. Louis. And August 6th, I'll be doing that debate on the resurrection at the Bible and Beer Consortium in Dallas. And I have tried to get people to engage on specific points of doctrine. Did Jesus well, I don't really want to do did Jesus exist, but did Jesus rise from the dead? Is the resurrection something that's reasonable to believe? That's the foundation. I mean, it's right there. Paul says, if Jesus didn't actually rise bodily from the grave, then our entire religion is in vain. And he's right.
Yeah. Well, it's like
why is it so hard to get one of them to defend what they actually believe instead of doing this bait and switch of, well, I'm going to convince you, maybe, hopefully, that there must have been some kind of first cause, and then maybe you'll just buy into the same first cause I do because I did a really good job of this.
Well, it's just like creationism when they say it's not necessarily God. That's the reason you're doing it. Let's not kid anybody.
Yeah, it's not. I've cautioned people that it's not dishonest. So, for example, people like to say William Lane Craig believes and says that he believes based on the inner witness of the Holy Spirit, and yet when he debates, he presents the Kalam cosmological argument or some variety of the moral argument and talks about things from a scientific perspective. He's using not the arguments that convinced him. He's using the arguments that he thinks will convince you. And I understand why many people look at that and say, oh, that's dishonest. But they're wrong. Because I might believe that that my wife is cheating on me. And I might just be suspicious for really bad reasons. But if I wanted to convince somebody else, I would have to go find better reasons. And by the way, that's not the case. But what Craig is doing is saying, you know what, I believe because of this inner witness Holy Spirit, but he understands that his personal experience can't be justification for somebody else. And so he has to go find out something else. So he's found arguments which he believes are compelling and consistent with what he believes.
Right.
So it's not dishonest of him to present it. Where his potential dishonesty creeps in, and this is why I'd love for Craig to debate me, even though he won't, is he presents something like the Kalam cosmological argument. And we could go ahead and grant it. We shouldn't, and I don't, but we could grant it. And the conclusion of the Kalam cosmological argument is, therefore, the universe had a cause for its existence. That's the conclusion. Nothing about a God, nothing about a personal God, nothing about a God that still exists, nothing about a God that is communicating with human beings or relayed information in the Bible or came down and took human form to be a sacrifice to it. None of that. That's all added on. So if you present the Kalam cosmological argument in a debate with an atheist, even if the atheist said, I agree to everything that he said in his actual argument, we are not one step closer to a God. All we've determined is that the universe must have had a cause for its existence.
Well, there you have it. Is there anything else you want to cover that we didn't cover because we're getting short on time? I don't have a 90-minute limit, I'm afraid.
No, I'm good. I'm happy to come on and chit-chat whenever you want about whatever you want.
All right. Well, everybody, make sure you go and check out your YouTube page. Tell us the name again. YouTube.com/sansdeity, I think. If you just do a Google search for Matt Dillahunty, and you'll find stuff on YouTube. But the main thing is the Patreon page is
Patreon, patreon.com/atheist debates, all one word, plural on the debates, because I do more than one debate.
There you go. And when is this book coming out that you mentioned?
Yeah.